What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. So we're going to talk about Jon Jones today. We're going to talk about, is Jon Jones actually ducking Tom Aspinall? And if he is ducking him, is he ducking him for fear of what the fight itself could do to his legacy should he lose? Or is he ducking him for monetary reasons? Because he wants to build that hype. He wants to get the biggest possible payday that he can. I mean, given that Jon Jones is considered by many, including Dana White, the pound for pound greatest of all time, he certainly is in the top few that would hold that accolade. I mean, I know you have a few here and there. Oh, he's failed all his PED tests. He doesn't count. Well, okay. But, that's subjective. Okay. And there are a lot of people that have the frame of thought of the PEDs doesn't do anything for his skill level. And ever since he has fought, his skill level has always surpassed that of his opponents, whether it be in the light heavyweight division or now the heavyweight division. So at some point, people have to stop using the PED argument as a reason that he is the best. And I guess it's one of those things too. Well, if he cheated for the whole, I understand he served numerous suspensions, but look at all the times he has fought and he hasn't tested positive for PEDs. He still won those fights. Got to give him credit for that. So anyway, that's a whole different conversation. We're here. Jon Jones is here. He has the status that he has. So whether you agree with it or not, based on his failed PED results, is kind of irrelevant. Now we're talking about him. We're talking about Tom Aspinall. We're talking about what that fight means to Tom Aspinall and what it means for Jon. And is Jon ducking him because he's afraid he'll lose that fight? Because Tom Aspinall is a very big, agile, athletic heavyweight who is good in all aspects of the game, including the areas that Jon excels, like the grappling, the wrestling. Tom Aspinall is also a jiu-jitsu ace. Tom Aspinall also has competed in Olympic style wrestling, submission style wrestling, right? No one that Jon has faced at heavyweight so far has had those sort of accolades. Let's think about Ciryl Gane. No wrestling experience whatsoever, pretty much, in comparison. Okay? Let's think about Stipe Miocic. He's not bad. He's not bad as a wrestler, but he certainly, on paper or in real life, you compare the two and their grappling prowess, there's no comparison really. And then even if there was, Jon beat him in the stand-up as well when they fought. I know Stipe's 42 years old. I mean, that's always going to be kind of an asterisk beside that win. But now here we are, Dana claiming that fight between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall 100% happens. That's what he's saying. He's saying that 100% happens. Okay. And Jon Jones, I did a breakdown on this a while back that maybe, gave some reasons as far as the fight goes that he might be concerned about fighting Tom Aspinall from a competitive sort of perspective, right? But you have to consider that it's also fair to say that Jon Jones but it's also fair to say that aside from the competitive edge that Tom Aspinall may bring to the octagon, Jon is trying to get paid. He's at that point where he wants super fights. And by super fights, it doesn't necessarily mean the guy who is most competitive because here's the thing. You have the guy who's the most dangerous and the guy who's the most competitive. And then you have the guy that will probably make him the most money and bring the most interest in terms of name value right now. Okay. Now, I understand Dana White has already shut down the idea of Alex Pereira, Jon Jones, but let's get real. Alex Pereira has a more worldwide renowned audience at this point than Tom Aspinall. He's a bigger name. Alex Pereira is a bigger name than Tom Aspinall. Okay. So the money in terms of John's perspective is right there with Alex Pereira. So there's a difference in where all the money is right now and who's the most dangerous competitively for Jon Jones. Alex Pereira, more money. However, Jon Jones absolutely 1,000% walks through Alex Pereira in an octagon. He would go in there, grab a hold of him, throw him down. Alex would never get up. I mean, that's how that fight would go. I would bet every red cent that's in my savings account on that, which isn't a huge amount, but it's enough to where I wouldn't bet it unless I was really sure. Okay. But then you have Tom Aspinall fight is not at this point not going to bring the same amount of money, same amount of eyeballs. Although it's getting close. It's getting close. It is pretty clear based on the fans that that's what they want, right? This is what the fans want. And they've expressed it. Okay. I'm just saying simply as far as name value, Tom Aspinall doesn't have the name value worldwide that Alex Pereira does. But he is absolutely a tougher fight, a tougher competitor. He's tougher competition for Jon Jones. Okay, so there's two different things here. But I saw an article the other day that made it clear to me that, you know, maybe I was right before. Maybe there are some competitive advantages that Jon Jones worries a little bit in regards to Tom Aspinall. And maybe he worries a little bit, oh, this guy could ruin my legacy right here at the end. I'm pretty much undefeated, though. There's one asterisk, you know, there's one on his record. And that was a fight that he was completely dominating where he got disqualified for throwing a 12-6 elbow. 12-6 elbow, by the way, is now legal in the sport. So that could potentially be overturned at some point, and then you would have to basically say he's undefeated with no contest. Okay. So with that said, let me get into this article right here. It's falling in my hands. Jon Jones reveals whopping 6-figure price tag. He's been paid to party for half an hour. Jones is the current UFC heavyweight champion and one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in Dana White's promotion. He has been fighting under the UFC banner for over 16 years during a highly successful MMA career that has turned him into a multi-millionaire. Jones became the youngest ever UFC champion at 23 years old when he won the light heavyweight title at UFC 128 in 2011. The 37-year-old has also competed in the most UFC title fights, winning 16 with one no contest decision. That's the one I just spoke about. Over the duration of his career, Jones has expanded his business portfolio by launching merchandise and investing in startups. He also has received mouth-watering million-dollar endorsement deals and sponsorships from various companies en route to the UFC's summit. The UFC heavyweight champion gave a rare look into his financial success in a December interview that took place in a Bugatti worth around $5 million. Yeah, you heard that right. So his car is worth $5 million. Jon Jones. Okay. All right. Dana White told me a long time ago, John, money will never be an issue. You will never have to worry about money as long as you live and for the rest of your life. And it seems like the less I think about money, the more it comes to me. After a 3-year injury-ridden hiatus, Jones returned to the UFC in March 2023 to compete against the heavyweight division's Ciryl Gane. He submitted Ciryl in the first 2 minutes of UFC 285 before defending the heavyweight strap in November against Stipe Miocic, who has subsequently retired. So I just want to say, Stipe, there's a mixed bag of feelings around this because, Jon Jones haters, of course, want to look at that fight and say, oh, yeah, he dominated him, but Stipe's 42 years old. And he's been out of the octagon for 4 years, this and that. Jon Jones dick riders look at it and say, so Jon Jones himself is 37. Jon Jones himself had been out of the octagon for multiple years. If Stipe felt like he wasn't ready or that he had lost his competitive edge, would he have stepped back in the octagon to face someone as dangerous as Jon Jones? Maybe, maybe not. So was it that Stipe has lost a few steps, or is it that Jon Jones is just that damn good and that there's nobody at heavyweight that can compete with him except maybe the guy that people refer to as Tom Aspinall, who has the current interim belt? But what if he goes in there and slaughters Tom Aspinall? What will people say then? I wonder. It's just falling into my hands these days, and I'm grateful for it, Jones said. I'm making really good money, doing really well, and doing really silly things also. I'll show up to a party for half of an hour for $100,000, sign a few items for $100,000. I barely leave the house for less than $100,000 these days. It just comes left and right, and I'm grateful for it. All right, let's stop right there. So what this article tells me is that Jon Jones feels like he has earned the right to be able to choose who he fights in the UFC. Now, the thing is, what the fans want to see is Tom Aspinall. And Dana White has said multiple times at press events where tons of cameras are on and tons of microphones are on, he has been quoted saying that fight 100% happens. Okay. So what that says to me is that Dana White is willing to give Jon Jones the kind of money that Jon is looking for to take this fight against Tom Aspinall. You can read an article like this. It's clear. Money is important to Jon Jones at his career, at this stage in his career. He's 37. He only has a couple of years left, probably, to fight. And it's one of those things where it does seem that if he doesn't get the money that he thinks he deserves to fight Tom Aspinall, he's okay with just relinquishing the belt and walking away. I strongly, truly believe that he would do that and that he would be okay with doing that. Can't say that I blame him. PED test aside, he's one of the greats, obviously. He's achieved more and done more in this sport than 99.9% of other fighters can ever say they have. Okay? So I think with that, when he lays his head down at night, he's probably okay with that. And he probably has this number in his mind that where if Dana White and company are not willing to meet him anywhere close to that number, he's just ready to walk away and he'll relinquish the belt. Now, how much of that is him understanding how big of a risk Tom Aspinall could be potentially to his legacy in terms of Tom Aspinall being a very tough challenge for him? How much of it is that, and how much of it is just business savvy, thinking about the rest of his life, thinking about having generational wealth, that he could not only his children will be good, but that his grandchildren would be good. And he actually mentions that later in the article. He talks about having money that even his children will be good, possibly his grandchildren. He uses possibly his grandchildren. will even be good off of his money. So, I mean, he's looking for 15 mil at least. Bottom line, he's looking for at least 15 mil to face Tom Aspinall. The question is Dana willing to do that? Dana seems to think that they can come to an agreement on that. They're going to have to make it a shit card. They're not going to be able to afford to pay anybody else on the card. That's going to be the only good fight. But hey, it's the fight that fans want to see. It's the fight that I want to see. It's the fight that, in my opinion, if Jon takes that, no matter what money it is for, that bona fides him as a person who is willing to see his legacy through. That's what that does, in my opinion, regarding Jon Jones. Whether he wins it or whether he loses it, that's him being okay with taking the very toughest guy, the one that all of the fans, including all of the professional analysts, say would be the toughest challenge for Jon Jones, is Tom Aspinall. 1,000%. 1,000%. But when you see this article, yeah, it's about competitive edge, but it's also about money. It's absolutely about money and that green-eyed monster, because it's obvious reading this article that money is important to Jon Jones at this point. And he's at a point where he feels like he deserves those super fights. He feels like he's done enough in the sport to deserve these super fights that Conor gets, right? These super fights that Alexander Volkanovski gets. Alexander Volkanovski gets to go and, go for double champ status. And I mean, Jon Jones has done it now, but the problem is there's that question mark. He came in and he fought an aged, possibly, well, can't say possibly, definitely out of his prime, Stipe. And the problem for Jon now is that people are always going to look at that, and people are always going to have that question like, yeah, you beat Stipe, who is possibly the greatest heavyweight of all time. But when you fought him, was he technically still the greatest heavyweight of all time? Is that the same Stipe that had the trilogy with Daniel Cormier? Is that the same Stipe that beat Francis Ngannou the first time? Is that the same Stipe that did this and that and the third? Is that the same fighter that all the fans and the pundits labeled as the best heavyweight ever? Is he? Because if he's not, that leaves a permanent asterisk in big red beside Jon Jones' name, that he didn't face the toughest guy in the division, right? Because there's a new sheriff in town in terms of what most people feel and what most professionals feel. Tom Aspinall's the dude. He is the dude right now. And you can ask yourself one question. What would have happened if Tom Aspinall would have faced Stipe Miocic? I mean, I can only assume he would have gotten his ass kicked. Stipe would have, that is. So it's about legacy. It's about a concern of the competitive edge that Tom Aspinall may have. He knows Tom Aspinall is the biggest threat to his belt and to his legacy with unifying that heavyweight title. And it's also about money. He wants these super fights. He wants these fights that are going to bring him the most amount of money, whatever that number that he has in his head. Is he going to get it? I damn sure hope so. I know you hope so too. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Does he get it? If we're talking 15 million, does Dana give Jon Jones 15 million? Dana said it's 100% happening. He has to have some sort of thought in his mind of what the number is, where they can meet. Is Dana going to give it to him? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you would like the video, and I appreciate you guys joining me. Thanks so much. I'll see you on the next one. All right, peace.